Hello there and welcome to Lower 6 Maths A-Level. This is the Applied Practice Paper I. Here we're working on question 4, hypothesis testing question. So, Brad planted 25 seeds in his greenhouse. He has read in the gardening book that the probability of seeds germinating is 0.25. 10 of Brad's seeds germinated, so he did pretty well there. He claims that the gardening book had underestimated this probability. Test at the 5% significance level Brad's claim and state your hypothesis. So let's start with that hypothesis then. So all hypothesis testing questions need two hypotheses. The first one is generally the considered starting point for our probability, so 0.25. And the H1 is the alternative. Now alternately, Brad thinks that the gardening book has underestimated his probability. So we're thinking here that the probability is going to be bigger than 0.25. Now Brad's done quite well, so this is why he's thinking that it's an underestimated probability. 10 out of the 25 seeds is 0.4 as a probability, so that's exceeded the 0.25 probability. So what we're thinking here is, on a scale of probability, what was the chance of that happening? Is it out of the realms of probability, or did Brad just get particularly lucky? So what we're thinking here, let's go to the extreme case. Let's go to the extreme case of 25 seeds out of 25 seeds germinating. Now that really is unlikely, especially if the probability is 0.25. So I would say that if Brad had 25 seeds germinated, that would be very low on the probability scale, or in terms of the cumulative probability scale, that would be up here. So 25 seeds or fewer, that would be really unlikely. Going further down, let's stop maybe at 15 seeds out of these 25 germinating, so effectively 60% of them germinating. That might be out of the realms of probability as well, only less than effectively 5% of that happening, or a cumulative probability that's very large happening. So what we want to test here is whether the probability of 10 or more seeds germinating is more than 5% or less than 5%. So that's what we're going to be testing here. We're thinking that the probability is higher than that, so we want the probability where 10 or more seeds germinate. Is this statistically lucky, or within the realms of probability? If it's if it's outside the realms of probability, then we're going to accept H1 as our hypothesis and say that the probability is probably more than 0.25. But in this case, we'll test the probability of 10 seeds or more germinating. So what we need to be able to do that is do 1 minus the probability of x is less than or equal to 9. So get your statistical calculator out. Option 7 you need. You want the binomial cumulative distribution, so we're working in the other way here. We're working from 0 seeds germinating going upwards, so we're going to be comparing this with 95% probability. What we want to hit is the variable button and then select our variable. Now we want to 1 minus the probability of 9 seeds germinating or fewer out of 25 with a 0.25 probability, and for this we get 0.9286717374. So the probability of 9 or fewer seeds germinating is 0.928. So 1 minus this is going to be 0.0713, which is about 7.13%. So that's to say that the probability of 10 or more seeds germinating, in this case here, is 7.13%. So because this is bigger than 5% of our significance level, what we're going to say here is it's not in the critical region and there is insufficient evidence to reject H0. Okay, so it was very unlikely that we would get 10 or more seeds germinating, but 7%, that's like still could happen. There's still a chance that 7.13% could happen. Brad is particularly lucky this year, probably won't be as lucky next year. Okay, insufficient evidence to reject H0. We're missing one more thing now, and that is the conclusion. So the conclusion is there is insufficient evidence to reject H0, and in layman's speak, that is that the book has not underestimated the probability. Okay, there we are. So I hope that made sense. So let's just go through it to summarize. So what we needed was for, because Brad assumed that 0.25, the probability was bigger than 0.25, we had to test the probability of more than 10 seeds germinating. So that's why we had to start up here. So we have to start with the probability of x is greater than or equal to 10, because we're assuming that the probability is more than 0.25. Work out that probability, and if we were to have got a number that was, say, 4%, then because the probability of getting 10 or more seeds germinating would be less than 5%, there'd be we'd have to reject H0 and assume that this is statistically unlikely to happen, so the probability needs to be more than 0.25. In this case, we got 7.13%, which was bigger than 5%, so there is a statistically likely chance that that could still happen. The probability of more than 10 seeds germinating is bigger than 5%, and that's the level of our significance test. Okay, so that's 6 marks for that question.